little spikes of laughter, and then they would spread. It was really wonderful to hear people kind of respond to the film. And what I wanted to start with is, if you've seen Johnny's other films, Old Stone or To Live to Sing, they're not like this one. This one
They're not funny?
Well, Old Stone is very serious. To Live to Sing has some light to it, but this is a completely different type of film for you. It's a different situation, it's a different setting, and it comes at a point in time, right, where right after the pandemic, anyone can do what the thing they wanted the most, it felt like. So, how did this come about?
Yeah, I just, it's, every one of the films that I made, they're very, very different. So this one, it found itself into this genre, and to be honest, I was searching for something that could connect all of the cultures and that we were working with, and so in North America, potentially this would be a romantic comedy maybe, and in Korea this may be a K-drama, and in Chile this may be a telenovela, but what they all share together is melodrama, and I looked at the oldest stories of melodrama, it's really fairy tales, and one of the oldest fairy tales are sort of these Red Riding Hood and anything that has to do with a bear or like animals. And it's always about stories about parents telling their kids, don't go too far, it's scary out there, So so the genre came from that structure, I would say.
But the fear that Jerry feels for a child, absolutely.
Yeah, and regarding the pandemic, it's very funny because this story, the woman that's inspired the film, Sarah, she's a real person in Korea that I met, and when I met her back in 2016, I thought, wow, what a wonderful thing to be able to make a film about her. No one's going to give me money for this, So I put it away, and in North America and Hollywood, you have this thing called the water bottle tour, and you go around, and at the end of those meetings, they'll say, do you have another story? I never pulled out this story, but then after the pandemic, somehow we looked at it again, we thought, no, this is what the world needs right now, and we need to have this collective experience to laugh and cry and to feel, and to have a character like Sarah being seen on the screen, to feel that, I don't know, we're all being seen.
Yeah, well, and to that end, your cast is so specific, it's so perfectly...
Every single one of them has saved my movie many, many times over. Really, really wonderful. Really, really wonderful. Yeah, it's not easy to put a story where every culture comes together because I don't know. It's difficult because if you're in one world and somebody else comes in speaking a different language and suddenly it feels like and so to create this world. Oh, and I have to say my mother is in the audience. I forgot to acknowledge her. It's the first time she's watching a world here right now, so it's really wonderful. Thank you, Sherry.
So, but to the cast,
yes,
how
please.
did you find everyone? What kind of a casting net do you throw out for something like this? Because the characters are so specific. The roles are so...
Well, I can tell the story of every single person with a full story. I mean, Miss Kim Ho-jong was, it's so difficult to find an actress who is from Korea who understands me because I don't speak Korean, really to connect with me, but also to be brave enough to come on an adventure because it was an adventure to come and shoot in minus 40 degrees weather in Winnipeg, So she is one of the bravest actors I know. They're really, really wonderful. And Won Jae. And Won Jae for me, he is the character. I mean, when we found him, it was, there's a term that I learned later on. It's called goose father, saying goose dad, and it's immigrant parents who have brought their family to Canada and then they have to go back to Korea to work. So and so Won Jae understood this character. I mean, in some way, this was him. And Jonathan also. When we met him, it was very interesting because he is playing on an archetype of a fairy tale prince. And so to have that character and to portray it in a way that that flips the stereotype of what a fairy tale prince would normally be. I thought that this was really wonderful that that we were able to find him and he was able to be in that place and feel honest, And Amira, I named the character Amaya because when I met her, because of the financing structure, and I had to hire an actress from Chile, and I thought, I would really like to find a very particular actress that I don't know exists in Chile, And so when I did meet Amira, who is Cuban and Palestine and Chilean, and yeah, it's a wonderful mix that, it's really, really amazing. So when I met her, it just felt like we really saved the movie, And Susan, to come in with this character that, she brought her red crystal shoes herself, and that made that character for me, really. So everyone just putting together, created this really wonderful mesh of playing with sort of the idea of fairy tales and sort of what we know of, in North American romantic comedy or Korean K-dramas or tough novellas, all of it. And it's my interpretation of those genres.